We are here live at Turning Point USA headquarters in Arizona, and we're going to bring you this show. We got a lot of news to talk about. Donald Trump is said to be deploying 100 National Guard troops into Chicago. The feds are already there. To mixed reaction. There are serious videos coming out of these feds walking down the street, people cheering for him, some people yelling, them chasing a guy on a bike who is yelling at him, and then he gets away. I put Benny Hill music on it. We'll talk about that. Plus, we've got a potential government shutdown coming. We've got YouTube paying Donald Trump $25 million. It is a very crazy morning. Oregon is suing Donald Trump to prevent the deployment of National Guard. A lot is happening, my friends. Now, before we get started, we got a couple sponsors for you. We got Beam Dream. Check out shopbeam.com/TimPool, and you can get delicious Beam Dream hot cocoa. I drink it every single night. I love it. I swear by it. It's got L-theanine. It's got magnesium. It's got melatonin. It helps you sleep. So if you're having trouble, or I'll tell you this, I didn't even know my sleep could have improved. You know, like my sleep score was like high 80s, low 90s, and I thought that was like pretty good, right? I get Beam Dream. I started drinking it every single night, and now my sleep score is 95 to 100. I kid you not. I showed this the other day. It's amazing. And so I definitely recommend it. Check out shopbeam.com/TimPool. Shout out to Beam Dream for sponsoring the show. We also have Field of Greens from Brickhouse Nutrition. Definitely check this out. I know we all have two ages, our actual age and our body's internal biological age. What I didn't know is I've likely lowered my biological age without even knowing it, because you get this Field of Greens. It's got all the vegetables and everything. You mix it right into a drink. Tastes great, by the way. Here's the thing. Because Americans eat so many processed foods and not enough fruits and veggies, many, perhaps most, are 10 plus years older on the inside than their actual age, and they are ticking time bombs. Yikes. A major university study suggests how to slow aging and diffuse that biological time bomb. Participants slowed their aging by drinking Field of Greens. That's all. They didn't change their eating, drinking, or exercise, just Field of Greens. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was doctor selected for specific health benefits. Cell health, heart, lungs, kidneys, metabolism, even healthy weight. I feel great knowing Field of Greens can slow how quickly I'm aging, especially because you guys have made comments about the white in my beard. I can't do anything about it. And I encourage you to join me. Swap your untested fruit, vegetable, or green drink for Field of Greens while there's time. Check out the university study and get 20% off when you use promo code TIM at fieldofgreens.com. That's fieldofgreens.com, promo code TIM. Don't forget to also smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else, we got Andrew Kolvet.
Honored to be here.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm the Turning Point USA spokesman. I'm the executive producer of the Charlie Kirk Show, and I'm a proud American.
Right on. Thanks for hanging out. We are joined by Luke. He has returned.
Yep. Luke Rudowski, youtube.com/wearechange. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
It's been a little bit of a whirlwind. Close to World War III, big push for national ID, civil strife. So a good time to come back to discuss all the madness and the psyops and the insanity unfolding in our society. That's only going to get a lot worse from here. So
well, okay, we're feeling good now.
Yeah.
I'm already depressed. Let's keep going.
Positive news for you guys.
Tate's hanging out.
What's up, guys? Tate Brown here, holding it down. It's so sick to be here. There's a venue change. This is like a Patriot hive. Like, I love it. Everyone in here is just a patriot. It's just so good to be here. So
Tate's so excited to be at TPUSA.
I'm excited for you guys to be here.
We all are.
I hit you up on text. And I was like, usually we do that when it's getting close to AmFest, and I was like, you should just come.
And I was like,
then you're like, I'm gonna come for the whole week.
That's what I was saying. I mean, it's really difficult to travel last minute, plus security issues. But I think we're feeling pretty confident. Yeah. And we
got this place locked down. We got a lot of tough hombres keeping.
Yeah,
this place
I won't reveal anything. But yeah.
We've been here before. You guys treat us pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But we're here. We'll be here all week. It's going to be fun, and I think we have a lot of interesting conversations. But let's jump into that first story.
Yep.
We got this from CBS News. Pritzker says Trump administration seeking to deploy 100 troops to protect ICE in Illinois. So it's not just the ICE agents with these ongoing riots, but now National Guard will be protecting them. Governor Pritzker on Monday said his administration has learned the Trump administration is seeking to deploy 100 troops in Illinois following the deployment of armed federal agents in downtown Chicago over the weekend and multiple clashes between protesters and ICE agents in the West suburban Broadview in recent weeks. Pritzker said the Illinois National Guard has learned the Department of Homeland Security sent a memo to the Pentagon requesting the deployment of 100 military troops in Illinois to protect ICE personnel and facilities. The governor's office said it's unclear if those troops would be Illinois National Guard members from other states, or active duty military troops. Quote, "What I have warned of is now being realized. One thing is clear. None of what Trump is doing is making Illinois safer. This is an attack on neighborhoods, on lawful residents, on U.S. citizens. That's not preventing crime, as Donald Trump claims. That's threatening public safety. But as I've said many times, for Donald Trump and the MAGAs in Congress, this is not about fighting crime or about public safety. This is about sowing fear and intimidation and division among Americans. It was about creating a pretext to send armed military troops in our communities. This is about consolidating power in Donald Trump's hands." Oh boy, I love this because I'm from Chicago and I can tell you he's lying. The Democrats have controlled Chicago for over 100 years and they have never solved the problem of crime. All they do is bulldoze these crime-ridden neighborhoods and relocate these families and these affected communities into other areas. So I say this, I see a video, and I'll tell you, it's a rock and a hard place that I'm not going to be happy about, but I see a video of ICE agent, CBP, or National Guard walking around Chicago. And my attitude is, oh, thank God. I see these guys. You know what your worst case scenario is? I know, Luke, you're going to have a heart attack over this one. You're going to be walking down the street, and there's going to be a National Guard guy, and he's going to go, "Excuse me, sir, you got a second? Can I see some ID real quick?"
No.
And
I plead the fifth.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And I mentioned this, that maybe 20 years ago I'd have been like, I don't got to give you my ID. What is this all about? Maybe not even, to be completely honest. Because now, you know what my response is? I'll be like, is something going on? Yeah, sure, here's my ID. I appreciate that you guys are here. It's been crazy. Where I grew up in my neighborhood, if I had National Guard at the park and they said, "You have an ID?" I'd be like, "No, I'm 16. And they'd be like, "What are you doing?" I'm hanging out with my friends. That's probably the end of it. The alternative is roving bands of gangbangers and people getting mugged, robbed, getting shot for no reason. There are some areas in Chicago where gangs, you have to join the gang if you live in their turf. So you're 13, they say join the gang. And how do you join the gang? You kill somebody. This stuff has to stop. And when Pritzker says there's no problem, we don't need this, 100 years, and they've never solved these problems, I will take anything I can get.
So Al Sharpton is actually calling this action by Trump racist because he says Trump is targeting blacks when he's doing this. So I think what happened in Washington, D.C. is kind of an example of where this is going. I mean, this is kind of a slow creek. I'm not a big fan of the military being on streets, but really we have to look at what happened in Washington, D.C. There wasn't any kind of major violations of people's civil liberties. It was just people kind of walking around here. People still have their constitutional rights. And for me, the perfect solution, I mean, obviously you picked up this dichotomy of like, okay, do you want the gangbanger there? Or do you want the National Guardsman there? Who do you want on the street corner? Who do you feel safer by? Obviously, the average sane, rational person is going to want to have the military there. But I think the perfect response is to allow people to defend themselves. I think there's a way to do this without using our tax dollars, using our military, and that's just allowing concealed carry federally. I know Trump has talked about that, and I would love to have people to be able to stand up to criminals and give them a fair chance to actually defend themselves, which they don't in Chicago.
But you know what happens in Chicago? You get arrested.
Exactly.
That's the
exactly. That's. I think if we're going to unwind this problem, that would be a kind of more federal way to do it, especially if you allow federal concealed carry, which I think is the most important issue right now. And then we won't have to waste National Guard troops. We won't have to spend tax dollars, and people are able to understand, hey, if you commit a crime, there's going to be people who are going to stand up to you and fight back. That right there is the biggest difference that is going to change things and respect people's civil liberties at the same time.
Now, I know Andrew is shocked by this development.
No, I loved it. I totally loved it. Let me hear. You know, I couldn't even remember her name. I had to look it up. It was, remember when the rep LaMonica McIver? She's like body checked. She was like a linebacker going in there. She punched.
She punched.
Well, she assaulted. That much is true, right? She assaulted. Federal law enforcement. That's what this is. And so, all of this goes back to the fact that blue jurisdictions are unwilling or unable to protect federal law enforcement that are in these cities. And so if they would just simply cooperate, if they would shut down these protests on their own, then Trump and the federal government would not have to send in additional troops.
I'm gonna push on that language a little bit. They're not protests. And I know that we have
riots. They're assaults. Right. They're domestic violent terrorism. I'm good using all those words. I'm good using all of it.
I don't mean that to come down on you, but I think the people on the right, or whatever you want to describe the faction, the pro-America faction.
Yeah, this team sanity.
has this tendency to often use the language that the corporate press will use.
That's a fine pushback. I mean, because I listen, I just lived through my friend, experiencing extreme violence, and obviously this ratcheting up of this violent rhetoric, this violent. I mean, you could see how radicalized young liberals have become in this country. 30% of them or more believe that violence is somehow justifiable to advance a political agenda. We have to figure out this problem on that side, but we have to be honest about the fact that it's coming from people like LaMonica McIver, and what's coming from Democrat leaders. They are looking the other way. They're essentially tacitly endorsing these strategies. And yeah, I mean, I love what Trump did with Antifa. I love that we're starting to take this stuff seriously and be like, these are domestic extremists, these are domestic terrorists, right? And they're actually doing violence, and we have to clamp down on it.
Isn't it wild that for the longest time we have tolerated these people showing up to various law enforcement agencies, and this is for, 20 years or longer, and they physically attack vehicles, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, these liberals are going out screaming, "But my free speech," and I'm like, whoa, hold on a minute. Free speech was never about you surrounding an ICE vehicle and banging on it and screaming. Free speech was you stood across the street from the gate, holding up signs and using that to generate attention. There's a degree of civil disobedience we tolerate, like linking arms. The cops come and then they break you up. Yeah. They take you out. You get a civil infraction of some sort. But we're supposed to tolerate now these people physically attacking cops. And I'm like, no. The line has been crossed. Okay, if you're going to go out and you're going to wave your little sign in the air and you are going to rally people and march down the street, I'm not even a guy who thinks you need a permit for that. That's fine. You want to march down the street, okay? But when you physically attack cops, lock them up.
Well, the tolerance is expected of conservatives at every level. I mean, that's why this is so important with the National Guard deployment. Because I mean, these cities, it's beyond inaction. When you're basically telling your citizens, "I hate you," when you refuse to enforce crime for as long as it's been going on. So conservatives have been expected to tolerate violence at every level, just from the street corner all the way to political assassinations for decades now. And so it's like, now that the Trump administration is actually just stepping in and lobbying on behalf of well-meaning citizens, they perceive that as this huge authoritarian.
Yeah, but it feels to me like more deliberate and sinister than that. They are intentionally not protecting ICE officers.
Right.
Yeah. This goes back to kind of when the raids were happening in LA, and it was the national news, right? Karen Bass is saying, you don't need to do this. Gavin Newsom making it this opportunity to take advantage politically. So, but the point is, all that they would need to do to stop that is very clear. When you get a criminal that happens to be an illegal alien and there's an ICE detainer on him, hand him over. But when you can't do that, guess what ICE has to do? They have to go out to the community and round these people up. So that is an intentional act of provocation by the local government, by Democrat cities and governors, to say, we're not going to play ball the safe way. How much more safe is it to hand somebody over that's already in custody? No, they're going to make you go out into the community and get these people. And guess what happens when that? People get hurt. People get killed. And so it's an intentional provocation. The blood is on their hands. And so, yeah, we need to ratchet it up. And Trump's absolutely right for sending in these troops.
Here's the challenge we face. The right has too long misunderstood the intentions of the left.
Yes.
A great example is this story from the New York Post earlier. Zohran Mamdani pledges $100 million in free legal defense. And by free, I mean they take it from you, taxpayer. Free legal defenses for illegal immigrants in New York when he wins. That means you as an American citizen will do labor. The city will take a portion of that and fund people who are not citizens of this country.
No, that aren't even legally here.
Exactly. Not even legally here. And he said, and he says in his campaign, that he's going to defend his community. People need to understand when they say our democracy or our community. And then they go on to explain, they're talking about non-citizens, people who don't live in this country. They are telling us, you are not who we are talking about. You are not our community. But the problem is, for the longest time, the right has believed that the left was talking about a country with all of us together, when they've been talking about isolating us and breaking us down and destroying what we want and what we believe in this country. So the challenge we face now, as you mentioned, why won't they turn these illegal immigrants over? That would be like, imagine if the UK filed an extradition, a warrant on Luke for Luke's speech. Well, we're not going to turn over a U.S. citizen to the UK. That's how the Democrats feel about their illegal immigrants. It's like turning over a citizen of their country to a foreign nation. That's how they're treating it.
Yeah, I agree with that. But and by the way, you're totally right, isolating the fact that we have assumed that they are operating in good faith when they're not. And secondly, I would say though that they are even. It's like when I say it's more sinister than that, it's because they're looking at it as a political advantageous move to provoke the action, and then when Trump takes the action, then they say, "Oh, it's the end of democracy." No, it's like, no, you are literally defying federal law. You are refusing to cooperate. And by the way, the fact that there's any legal protection for a sanctuary city to begin with boggles the mind. And it's there are legal protections. There is case law and all this stuff, which is a problem. We need to dismantle it because it fundamentally erodes the strength of the federal government and the ability for us to govern the entirety of this country. You essentially have these little outposts of rogue states that, we just call them Karen Bass. Yeah.
I'll give it to them. It is destroying democracy. We're a constitutional republic. They are a multicultural democracy. That's how Stephen Marsh described it. And as much as he said he favors the multicultural democracy, I think he's correct. They have created a multicultural democracy that is trying to supplant our constitutional republic. So when they look at what Trump is doing, what we are doing, what Americans believe in and want for their country, electing Trump with a popular vote, and they say, oh no, our democracy is threatened. Yeah, they're speaking the language of the left. They're saying our invasive system is under threat. Yeah, they're right.
Well, a lot of the corruption comes top down, not just from the George Soros district attorneys, but also police officers. I mean, from my experiences being at the Battle of Berkeley, being in Portland, Tim, you were there too for a lot of those kind of on-the-ground protest movements. There was incidences where the left created an illegal action, violated someone's personal property or injured someone, and the cops just kind of stood there like, okay, we're not going to do anything. So when we look at that type of lawlessness, again, I have to go back to constitutional carry. I have to go back to individuals understanding that the solution is going to be on an individual level, because I feel like we're just trying to outbeat each other with big government. I don't want big government, but at the same time, the problem that you guys are addressing is very severe, is very real. And we're not talking about thousands of troops. We're not talking about martial law. We're talking about, 100, 200 troops that are also there?
Yeah.
So I understand that argument as well.
And by the way, another thing that boggles the mind here is you look at, there's a crazy stat that people don't know about DC. And I don't know the stats about Chicago, but I'm assuming they're just as stark, if not more. In DC, from 2018 until Trump deployed, took over law enforcement in District of Columbia, there was like 1,200 murders from 2018 until 2025. Guess how many of those murders were white? Any idea?
Was it most of them?
No, like the people that were murdered, 1,200. How many of them were white? 11.
Wow.
11. That means that
I know it's going to be a big number or a small number.
Yeah, 11. So Trump comes in, takes over law enforcement. There was a lot of the tweets you were seeing for a while were like, no murders for this much, which, by the way, in the height of the summer was truly remarkable, right? Because that's killing season. The summer is killing season. There wasn't any murders, and then we finally had one, right? But what the left says is that they're for the people of color, they're for the disenfranchised, the marginalized, all this stuff. Well, Trump's the one out here saving black lives. You look at the Ferguson effect. You look at George Floyd effect. This is the lack of law enforcement in the communities that need it most results in all of these dead black and brown kids.
You know what's going to happen though? Let's do a countdown to when the news with the number of black people dying going way down under Trump's rule. What they're going to say now is number of white people killed in D.C. explodes by 2,390.
No, you're probably right.
Because it's like from
proportional, yeah,
exactly.
But they don't understand statistics or per capita, right?
They can frame it that way.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the story. We have this from NBC News. Oregon sues Trump administration over deployment of National Guard troops to Portland. The suit comes a day after Trump announced he was authorizing the Guard to use full force, which is a vague term because does he mean lethal force? I don't know. The suit names President Trump, Pete Hegseth, Homeland Security's Kristi Noem, as defendants. It asks a federal court in Portland to stop the Trump administration from deploying troops and declare the deployment unlawful. Now, this is something called the protective principle. It's been asserted by the executive branch for decades. The executive branch has long maintained troops can be deployed not for domestic law enforcement, but to protect federal buildings and assist federal law enforcement in certain capacities like logistics or otherwise. And that is viewed as largely legal. Now, the issue I suppose we're looking at is, what does full force mean? And the bigger question for our, anarcho Luke over here is, when I look at this, I look at extenuating circumstances, and it's the rock in the hard place. Abraham Lincoln famously suspended habeas corpus, one of the craziest examples of, he did this in violation of the Constitution without legislative authority, and then retroactively sought approval from Congress, which was granted, creating this precedent where president can theoretically suspend habeas corpus in an emergency and then wait for approval later. It's kind of a crazy thing to think that we would do, but Abraham Lincoln did it. What we're dealing with right now, I would say, I don't want National Guard on my streets, but what's the alternative? Right. You've got these roving bands of far-left extremists who've been firebombing buildings for the past several years, the worst riots we'd seen in 50 years. We've got now the assassination of Charlie Kirk, as well as, since we've had 4 terror attacks in 4 weeks. Now, I do understand that the church attack, it was some internal Mormon issue. The left is going to run wild with it, but by all means, the guy appears to have been a Trump supporter. The point is, we are dealing with a terror attack every week. This year, I think we're up to 30, and what I mean by terror attack is politically motivated, ideologically motivated attacks. Now, I think they're almost entirely liberal, and that's where we get really crazy, is that I'm not talking about far left. The ideology espoused by these terrorists is mainstream Democrat ideology. What AOC said on the floor of the House was no different than the ideology of the alleged assassin of Charlie Kirk. Now, when we see this guy, he drives into a church and he attacks it, everyone on the right is shocked, angered, and saying this can't happen. We can't allow this. And his views do not represent, his motivation doesn't represent anyone on the right. Luke, how do you feel about Trump deploying troops considering all of this stuff that's happening?
Well, we have to look at a case-by-case basis. So Washington, D.C., I think overall was a successful case, right? Even though I would have handled it completely differently with more of a respect for the tax dollars, but that's just me. I'm just a nitpicker.
Too expensive.
But with Portland, we have to understand the police are complicit there. A lot of the times they allow leftist violence. They don't do anything about it. When you have people taking sniper shots at ICE facilities, you're going to need National Guard to respond in full force. I know the left is responding and very hyperbolically saying, now they're going to do whatever they want. No, I mean, if I'm one of these National Guardsmen, right, and I'm there at the ICE facility, I want to make sure if someone is throwing a Molotov cocktail at me, or if someone is shooting a gun at me, that I could defend myself. So I think this is what they're meaning here, and it's reasonable to have that. It makes sense. I can't argue against that.
It seems like escalation's the only thing that's going to happen then, because the ICE attacker, apparently, according to the evidence that Cash put out, he wrote a letter saying he wanted to terrorize ICE and have them fear there could be a sniper on any rooftop. So now you've got these protests in Chicago. You've got these protests in Portland. These ICE guys are going to fear that they could walk outside and there could be a sniper taking shots at them. I fear that this will escalate to a point where some ICE guys will be doing a prisoner detainee transport. They'll see some far leftist. They'll have something in their hand that looks like a gun. ICE will shoot them. The left will then say martyrs, martyrs, and it'll just escalate. Yeah,
I think the left is looking for their immigrant George Floyd, and they're desperately searching for it. And I just saw a video today of someone at one of these protests acting like he had a firearm, walking up to a lot of these National Guardsmen, and I'm like, what are you doing? So I fear false flags. I fear that we are on a powder keg. I feel like the chain reaction type of events that have started after what happened at Charlie, there's no going back from. And it's a situation that I fear for this nation, and I fear for the future very severely. We need to take it seriously. We need an off-ramp. We need to de-escalate tensions, but the opposite of that is happening.
Could you imagine 10 years ago if someone came from the future while we were hanging out in your basement and they were like, Luke, Tim, in 10 years, you guys are going to be thanking President Donald Trump for deploying federal law enforcement into the cities in the United States. We'd be like, what? Are you crazy?
Well, that's why when it comes to de-escalation, that's why it's so important that Trump is doing what he's doing. Because for the right, I mean, obviously the left, Tim opened, he was saying, the rhetoric AOC is using is similar to what the ICE shooter is using. And it's very true, because the only thing that's separating these people that are actually acting and that are committing these acts of political violence from these people in these jobs is that they just have nothing to lose. The people that are, broadly speaking, on the left have the same ideology. They just have something to lose, so they're not going to act on it. But so that's why with Trump, this is what allows for de-escalation or an off-ramp, is because the right doesn't really feel the need to lash out, because we're not backed into a corner. We're winning. We were winning before all this happened, and we're still winning now. And Trump provides the opportunity to crack down on this.
Well, there's a couple things, and I want to give a nod to Charlie on this. One of the things he was warning about right up until the end was what he called the lost boys of the West. And basically, when you create an economy, and this kind of goes back to some of the stuff where you started out with, Tim, like the Occupy stuff, right? Where you have this easy money, the inflation of assets, while the little guy gets crushed. Charlie was warning about this. He was like, listen, they can't afford homes, they can't afford rent, they can't afford to get married, they can't afford to have kids, an increasingly large number of them. And what they do is they get sucked down these rabbit holes online, they get radicalized, they get told that conservatives are not human. You can lie about them. You can lie about them even if you're Jimmy Kimmel on ABC. You can lie about how they died. And so you dehumanize them. They're hearing this all the time, that they're Nazis, that they're fascists. You can, it's a moral good to take them out. And meanwhile, they're sitting there going like, well, I can't afford anything. I can't afford to live. We've flooded our market with cheap money. The incumbent class, the boomers and such, have so much extraordinary wealth. And screw it. I'm going to burn it all down. And Charlie's whole goal was, we have to get this generation, Gen Z, to buy into the system, or we're all screwed. Yep. And that's why, when Erica's saying that young man, Charlie was trying to reach those people. He was trying to say, you can have a piece of this, and I'm working on your behalf. We want a moonshot with new homes. We're going to build 10 million new homes. We're going to make it affordable. BlackRock's not going to be able to buy them. Interest rates are going to come down. We got all this investment coming back in the country. There's going to be jobs. There's going to be opportunity. This is the promise. But he was like, hey, we're up against the clock.
It's what Yuri Bezmenov warned about when it came to demoralization. When you look at extremist type of handbooks and you look into what causes extremism, it's usually people who don't have relations, don't have sex, don't have family, don't have relationships, that don't have any kind of economic opportunities. That's pretty much the modern youth. So if you want to unwind that, I would argue that the establishment has been pushing for this, for all the young males to feel like this, to be in this particular position. And that position is an extremely reckless and dangerous one that we are all in right now.
Well, yeah, and you either get Mamdaniism and Magionism, or you get MAGA.
Yeah.
There's two routes. Yeah. Once you've backed yourself into this debt crisis, once you've backed yourself into these inflated asset crises that we've gotten after COVID, especially, but ever since the 2007-2008 financial crisis.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's why the left is so petrified of MAGA. That's why they're so petrified of what Charlie Kirk was doing, was because they were occupying the mainstream and reinventing it. They were pushing the mainstream into the correct direction. And that's why that was so terrifying. They were just so effective, because it was providing a siphon for frustrated young men, but it was channeling it into something effective rather than these weird, radical.
Well, yeah, it's the burn it all down people and the societal anarchists versus the national revitalization people. Yeah, we believe that we can revitalize America because we believe America is exceptional. We believe that it's providential. We believe that it is special, and so it's worth fighting for. It's worth saving, and it's worth making sure that the next generation has a seat at the table and skin in the game. And if we don't do that, then you're going to get more and more radicalization. If you have a marriage, if you have kids, if you're worried about your local playground and your local school, guess what? You're not going to burn it down because you don't want your kids to grow up in that world. That's why Charlie was so adamant. Get married, have kids. Get the MRS degree. I don't care. His message was very clear. And when you see people that are getting estranged from the system, they're going to get radicalized, and they're going to be attracted to the Mamdanis of the world, who are the burn it all down people that fundamentally load the American system.
All right. Well, I mean, Mamdani is not a bug of the system; it's a feature of the system. This is the system that the ruling regime over the last few decades has created.
It's not a central casting.
They've created atomized young people, and of course, for young people, I'm a Zoomer, I'm 24. Among people my age, if you're a centrist, you're cringe and an idiot, because it's why would you defend the system as it has existed? And again, I'll go back to it. I mean, that's why MAGA is such an interesting, potent force, because it's the first time that we've had a movement that's in the mainstream that actually is effective, that you're actually seeing, oh, you can just deploy troops into Chicago and fix it. You can just do things.
Yeah,
you can just do things.
If Trump wants to deal with this radicalization problem, he really has to fix the economy. And he should start at the U.S. Federal Reserve banking system. He should get rid of that whole system, and he should get rid of it.
Let me pull this up. We'll jump to this story. This is a poll from YouGov and The Economist, and it's a little hard to see, but basically what we have is reckless youth. Quote, is it ever justified for citizens to resort to violence in order to achieve their political goals? From ages 18 to 39, around 30% of liberals say yes. And among 40 to 59, it's around 15%.
That's crazy.
And just slightly less than 10. Conservatives have gone down. Conservatives have actually de-radicalized. Moderates have radicalized. So moderates and liberals. So it's important to understand how this graph is. 60 plus on the right, 40 to 59 in the middle, and 18 to 39. The younger generation of liberals are extremely violent. And what this means, people need to understand. Here's what's really crazy about the 18 to 39 cohort. 5 years ago, we're talking about 13 to 34, meaning they weren't even polling these people. Younger generations are becoming extremely radicalized. And as the boomers, I was talking to this, I don't know, he's probably 7 years old.
By the way, can I just say one thing? Look at the date on that.
Charlie
got assassinated on the September 10th. This
poll
poll was taken
September
the 12th
12th
through the 15th.
Yep.
That should send chills down your spine.
And this is why we saw so many people on social media celebrating.
Yeah.
I talked to this old boomer guy, he's probably 70, and he was talking politics. And I said, the problem is we need more of you guys. I was like, the boomers, if you even look here, you can see liberal, conservative, and moderate boomers are less than 10% justification for violence. The younger liberals are who went insane. Younger conservatives are sane. Younger moderates are losing it a little bit. When these 18 to 39-year-olds are the 60 plus, when they're older, this whole graph, imagine where young liberals are going to be. They're going to be 80%. They're going to be saying they want violence. It's not going to be a third of the younger generation. It will be 2/3.
I pray you're wrong. I pray you're wrong, because the escape hatch here as a nation is like what you were saying.
Yep.
We are in a race against the economic clock. We have to prove, and by God's grace, I hope we get 8 more years after Trump's term. But we have to accomplish enough where there is enough of this direct investment in our country. There is enough new jobs. There's enough new innovation where there's a whole boom where people are actually invited in. And I believe that you pair that with self-deportations and deportations, where one of the most promising stats that we've seen is that it's native-born Americans getting the jobs.
Yeah.
Because that is the social compact, right? Your compact is you are born in this country, and your government's going to care about you more than they do about somebody who wasn't born here, right? That's a central component of it. And if you're a young man that has all this energy, you want to be able to get married. Yeah. Right? One of the most evolved forms of societal technology is monogamy. Get married to one woman. That you're not competing against the alpha guy that gets a harem of 15, and you're left without any eligible women. You get to put your energy into building your family. You get to put your energy into raising your children. You get to put your energy in having a job and building wealth. If you can do those things, you're going to have a very stable society. This is why the West has been so successful, is because we had this ethic of monogamy, and you had people with innovative ideas that created economic opportunity. Those pieces, we are in this race against the clock. If we can do those things, I believe that we will convert the lost. Meaning that you see this 30% of the radical liberals, they're gonna eventually age out. They're gonna lose some of that steam, and they're gonna realize that, hey, buying into the system isn't the worst thing. That's my hope.
I actually will offer up some other optimism in a very dark way, and to offer up a counter to what I was saying about liberals getting crazier. Liberals don't have kids. If they do,
right?
If it's usually not often, but they have them on accident and then terminate them before they come to fruition, which is horrifying.
Or that one song you were playing.
Or they Brick by Ben Folds about getting his girl. That song is so brutal.
That's so dark.
It's very dark.
I'm so glad you told me about that, because I would sing it just kind of because it's one of those songs you sing in the background.
She's a brick and I'm drowning slowly.
Well, I just figured it was a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was about, she got pregnant and now she's bringing me down with her. I don't want this baby. That's dark.
Yeah,
that's dark.
But hey, we look at these violent liberals and we go, it's very dark, but there won't be very many of them.
Let me add one more piece to that. I agree with you. We're going to outbreed them. I remember Charlie said something up to that effect, a few weeks before it happened, and he got a bunch of people were like, I can't believe you said that. Well, yeah, it's true, because if you actually look at the fertility rates, I think if you look at conservatives in the West, we're still above replacement. We're like 2.7. but liberals are like 1.6. Something.
Christians tend to be. I think we've gone over this quite a bit. I think Christians average like 1.8.
I saw a different stat.
The official data from Pew is Catholics and evangelicals are above replacement 2.2, 2.3.
Yeah.
It's the main lines and like the kind of non-affiliated Christians are dragging it down.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Those aren't even they don't even count most of the time.
That's like you've just
there's like the random like exception to the rule, but it's not
Catholics are all cheering.
Well, we love the Catholics. Here's what I would say though. This is the other piece to that, and it ties into the story that kind of led us in here. You have to punish evil.
Yeah.
Right.
If you do not punish evil, society falls apart. You get more radicalization. You get more vigilantism. You have to punish evil. And when those progressives that think it's really cool to commit violence, well, guess what? When they see their buddy that just got got the death penalty by the state, by the way, not some vigilante. When the state and the power of the sword that's been invested into our representative government, when they actually levy a charge and they follow through on it, and then we all bring the shame that somebody like this deserves upon them. We heap our scorn on these people. It's not nearly as cool.
I'll tell you one thing that really, really bothers me. And there's a challenge in that our memories are actually short. No matter how smart we are, no matter how good at our jobs or clever we think we are, our memories are actually very short. It's fascinating how many people, even on the right, don't remember the severity of the COVID lockdowns. But that being said, I want to make sure just to grab this context of it was less than a year ago that a healthcare CEO was assassinated in cold blood, shot in the back in New York. The alleged assassin, Luigi Mangione, has been venerated by the left, and we all warned, Charlie especially, that this is an assassination culture. The left is now seeing that they will get praised when they do this. They're going to view themselves like martyrs or heroes of like these civil rights icons, or like John Brown. Not even a year after this, they killed Charlie Kirk. Mm-hmm. Because in the mind of these liberals, what's their worst case scenario? They will be celebrated, they will be celebrities, and when they win their revolution, they'll be freed. That's the terrifying reality. We need to make sure that young people think, no way, you can't do that, you will get crushed. Do not do it. That is not the way to get things done. If the problem I see with these people is that the state has been, for the longest time, unwilling to level this force against them. Like I was mentioning with the George Floyd riots, the Ferguson riots, with Baltimore, I mean, it was insane. There were some issues for sure with police, but for the most part, I watch all these videos where either the police are letting these people run around and smash windows, like in DC, which or unable to stop them. So these young radicals are told, you will win when you do this. We've got funding. We've got lawyers. You will not spend a day in jail. You will get a badge of honor.
And then they got money for it, and they got compensated for it because they won the lawsuits afterwards.
In D.C.,
New York,
the rioters won over $1 million.
Yep. Same in New York. I think same in St. Louis.
Again,
insane.
It's another thing. I mean, I said it again. It's a feature of this. It's not a bug. It's like this is the point of the regime is they're trying to demoralize young people. Like if you're a young American patriot and you're going to New York City and you just see disorder and disarray and these delinquents getting let off left and right, that tells you that this is your principal city and it's a total disaster and it's just embarrassing. You feel embarrassed to be an American.
It's national broken windows.
It's demoralization.
Yeah, but it's worse than that. But this is why one of the people when Trump was kind of reasserting control of D.C. that spoke very clearly from a moral standpoint was Judge Jeanine Pirro, and now she's, I guess, U.S. Attorney, right?
She's great.
She was like, I don't care if they're 14, they're going in, because these kids are doing unthinkable crimes, but they're 14. Oh, we can't punish them. So what do? They go out and do it some more. They go in these roving gangs. The second you bring the hammer down on this, and you actually have a backbone. Don't listen to what the left says. Oh, there's end of democracy. They've got one card. The end of democracy, fascism. Well, it didn't work in November. All right. And we've got to have our own confidence, self-confidence that just doing the common sense thing is ultimately going to pay dividends. And if it doesn't, then we're all screwed.
Well, yeah, a line was crossed, and everyone, especially here, knows it. So when they say, "Oh, but our democracy," I'll be like, I kind of thought democracy was threatened when you killed Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, right.
When the guy who was hosting college debates who was willing to allow anyone to have the conversation and come up to him and challenge him and prove him wrong.
But this is why they wanted him so badly to be MAGA. They wanted him to be a Groiper or a MAGA or whatever, because then they could wipe their hands clear and clean of everything that they've said, every nasty smear, every hyperbolic, hyperventilating lie that they have heaped on us, because then they could just, you know what, it was not our fault, it's one of yours. That's just why it was so crucial, this lie, and why the fact that he has not apologized is infuriating. Jimmy Kimmel.
Yep.
Because it's basically just sweeping it under the rug like they never had any complicity in this, and it's just not true. I mean, listen, ABC is free to make its own mistakes, but I hope it's a Pyrrhic victory. I hope people will not watch that show.
I was going to ask you guys, who do you think, or what do you think is responsible for this type of extremism on the left? I mean, I have my own theories, but I think we need to quantify that before we start to unravel and try to fix that particular problem. Because
what do you think?
I think it's a combination of berating, beating down young men and boys in our society, not giving them any opportunities, not giving them any chances, telling them that they're imperfect no matter what, that they're always wrong, that they need to apologize. I think that type of berating, as well as the institutions in our system that have robbed them blind of any kind of economic opportunities, specifically the fractional Federal Reserve banking system. I'm going to keep talking about that because that just pisses me off, the way everyone gets robbed here. But I think social media played another role. And I think there was a deliberate effort. Social media has always been in the control, many people don't believe this, but in the intel agencies. The intel agencies run the algorithms. And I think there's a lot more of this to kind of delve into, specifically when it comes to radicalizing people and moving people that the intel agencies have moved to this particular point, which gives them the perfect pretext to now kind of to clamp down.
It's the one ring, though. I agree with you. I think, I had some activist friends who always called Facebook Face CIA book. It's the great dossier of every American, building a profile on everyone, and you do it for them. But I think it was the algorithms. I believe that the U.S. government loved the idea of being able to control, through social media, manipulate what people saw and what they believed. There are theories based on the work done by Barrett Brown and Project PM that the Libyan revolution, or whatever you want to call it, was because Western intelligence agencies were using social media to manipulate the people on the ground and manipulate us into believing they supported this foreign intervention. What I think happened, though, is these platforms were trying to maximize attention, and they found very early on, when they switched to algorithmic feeds, that hate and anger generated the most amount of attention and shares. And so this naturally gave rise to videos about police brutality, because you actually even had, Alex Jones, and you had the far left complain about police brutality because nobody likes injustice. These websites then started, these companies that were using them to make money realized it's not just police brutality, but racism, sexism, all of these isms will give you a boost in the algorithm because people get offended and angry and they want to share it.
Right.
All of a sudden, BuzzFeed, Huffington Post, Mike.com, you name it, all turned into these liberal activist blogs because of how much money they were making. Whenever something on the right would try and rise up, they'd ban it for being hate speech or whatever because they didn't want to lose advertisers who were scared. I think the intelligence agencies did want to utilize these platforms. Clearly that failed them, like the One Ring, because Trump ends up getting elected and then working towards shutting down all of the things they've been trying to do. I think they, and I mean like the uniparty establishment politics in this country, have been crushed, and it's somewhat their own making.
Yeah, well, I think what they're doing, like the ICs and the social media big platforms, these sorts of things, is they're just exploiting the underlying philosophy behind leftism, which is it's anti-hierarchical. And now we have an actual tangible political force that is telling people no. Like, no, you can't beat people up in the streets. No, you can't do this. No, you can't change your gender. No, racism's not the reason that, like, you suck. Like, we have an actual party that's telling people no, and that drives them absolutely wild. And then the ICs, the social media platforms, they're just exploiting that philosophy behind that people already have.
I want to pull this story up. We got this from the Post-Millennial. And Omar says Charlie Kirk has no legacy to honor in hate-filled interview with Don Lemon. Rep. Ellen Omar doubled down on her criticism of the late conservative activist Charlie Kirk during an interview with Don Lemon, saying she has nothing to apologize for and dismissing any effort to portray Kirk's work as honorable. Quote, I have nothing to apologize for. You know, it is a tragedy that Charlie Kirk was killed in that way. I feel for his widow and his children. They will have to live with that for the rest of their lives, but there is no legacy to honor. It was a legacy filled with bigotry, hatred, and white supremacy. I also want to throw in this video from our old friend Don Lemon.
Men who look like you, men who vote like you, and men who sound like you. White men, something is broken. Something is cracked deep inside when so many of you believe the answer to fear, to loss, to change is violence.
Shall I go back and cite the data we just had a moment ago when Don Lemon says something so shockingly insane and racist?
But like, you know, obviously these are high-profile incidents, but like, is he going to address gang violence in America? Like, do we need to like have the conversation about, you know, how many of the murders in this country are committed by a very small proportion of like pretty young black men?
6% of the population, about.
Yeah, I mean, like, are you gonna address that, Don? Are you gonna address the fact that it's your side that's radicalized? Yeah, I mean, you could take it either way, but they're both sort of like shooting at. I actually have no idea what he's talking.
Like, what are white men guilty of being like nice to police officers? Like, is that the
crime? Yeah, but by the way, like, we didn't burn down cities. We didn't burn down and loot businesses. Yeah. You know, we didn't have mostly peaceful rioting after Charlie. We prayed.
But didn't he marry a white guy? What did they say? Colonizer in the sheets, and what's the phrasing?
Revolutionary in the streets.
Revolutionary in the streets, colonizing the sheets.
I'm going to intentionally make this personal and hokey for a reason. I was skateboarding at Freedom Plaza in D.C. I'm pretty good at skateboarding. These leftists went on forums and said that Tim Pool couldn't even do a shove it. Now, for those who don't know, that's like a very basic trick children do, and I was actually doing pretty advanced tricks. Now, the reason I intentionally make this hokey is, the reason they say this is because in their cult of people, the liberal cult has their high priests like Jimmy Kimmel who know they're lying, and the run-of-the-mill liberals who don't pay attention or read the news. They just believe whatever it is they're told. The purpose of lying about someone like me is to create in their mind, ignore him, he's not a real skateboarder. And so they want to try and isolate me, my views, my team, my company from the industry. I bring this up intentionally, as I said, making it hokey. The idea that Charlie Kirk has no legacy to honor is the stupidest thing imaginable, considering TPUSA, AmFest already has people saying it's bigger than the RNC and it's the biggest right-wing political convention, if not the biggest political convention in the country over the past several years since its inception. She says this, there's no legacy to honor because to the liberals who follow her, they don't pay attention. There was that viral video, I don't know if you saw this.
Yeah, you should play it.
Of the young woman who said, she was gloating saying Charlie is not going to be a martyr. No one, he wasn't big enough.
Oh, well, maybe, yeah. Not that, I thought you were talking about that, we talked about before the show, the black mother, and Charlie was like, praise God.
Oh,
that's
yeah, I mean, that was a great one.
Yeah, I mean, but there's tons of that. I mean, you know, Charlie, what they do, and this is why, I genuinely don't mean this as a selfish plug, but, you know, we did an episode on Thursday where we went through all of the, what we would think the most viral on the left clips, taking Charlie out of context, whether that be the brain processing power of black women. Not true.
Yeah,
not at all true. He didn't say that. He talked about Sheila Jackson Lee and Michelle Obama and Ketanji Brown Jackson, who all have basically said, we wouldn't have made it without affirmative action. And Charlie's like, yeah, we know. You know, it's not a surprise if anybody's listening to it. And by the way, we went through like our chats and what we were, you know, in our show, what we were talking about before he said that. And we went through the black pilot thing, which was, you know, he didn't worry about black pilots now because the black pilots now didn't have this quota system. Meanwhile, the United Airlines pilot or CEO is saying that each new pilot corps is going to be 50-50. Well, that's all well and good until you find out only 9% of people of color and women apply to be pilots, new pilots. 91% of the pilot population happens to be white men. So you're telling me in that instance that you're going to populate 50% of your pilots out of 9% of the population of new pilots? How are you not going to lower standards in that instance? So Charlie was saying, if you're going to move forward with this, I might have suspicion when I get on that plane because I'm going to know that you're going to have to lower standards. So whatever the issue was, there is a very logical explanation for why Charlie said this. They're intentionally trying to, obscure the truth, but like just so brazenly lie. To your point, like how do you even make that point with a straight face? Like, did you not just see what has been, galvanized around the world? Do you think you could just repeat the lie enough and it'll become the truth? Like, not this time. We all saw it. We saw vigils and prayer lights and the memorial. We saw that the gospel being presented to the biggest audience in the history of humanity. We all saw it. I
will say this. As much as I have complained about liberals, I was shocked to discover on my Facebook or Instagram defending the assassin, praising the assassination. There were also very many liberals who I saw come out in support of Charlie and TPUSA.
There were some good ones.
There were some, throw back to skateboarding, because this is what I do, right? There were some professional skateboarders who I did not know to be political at all. And boy, did they piss off the left when some of the biggest names in skateboarding came out and said, I'll shout, Steve Caballero, a legend in skateboarding, came out and said, condolences and said kind words. All of these lefty skateboarders were just so angry.
No, you can't tell the truth. How dare you tell the truth?
Well, I think, we've talked about the silent majority for a long time. People who obviously don't believe in the sterilization of children or sex changes for kids or whatever, but were too scared to speak up because they'd lose their jobs. What ends up happening then is, with something so shocking as what happened to Charlie, I think a lot of people snapped to attention and said, we better speak now or forever hold our peace.
Well, I am a glass half full on America guy. I am. It's not just because I have to be. It's not just because of my job. I genuinely believe that this nation is providential. I do. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't mean we get to have it forever. Doesn't mean that we're guaranteed anything. We got to fight for it. But, when you talk about liberals coming out and actually defending the truth, that's a good sign. That's a good sign. When you see moderates coming out to defend the truth, that's a good sign. This is insane that we've come to this far, no doubt. But there is a belief in me, and there is a prayer that I have, that we're going to see things politically that we couldn't have even imagined in November, because there are a remnant of sanity in this country that it's going to say, we can't have this anymore. We cannot have this. This is so shocking, so terrifying. This is so, I'm so freaked out for my kids that this is a potential reality that we're sliding down, that we say no more.
My prediction is, in about a year's time, we will get at least within, but I think by. I think 1 year from now, there will likely be another high-profile targeted assassination, perhaps attempt or terror attack. I'm not saying the probability is really, really high. There's a lot of things that happen between now and then. So I think I said maybe it'll be 6% likelihood, whatever. I just see that as the strongest possibility because
I hope you're wrong.
I do too. And I'll stress this again. I think 94% chance anything other happens. But the assassination of Charlie has exposed so many of these people celebrating, lying, defending, and it's 2 weeks, and we're going almost on 3 weeks, and they're doubling down and they're emboldening themselves and they're pushing harder now with what Ilhan Omar is saying. Where will we end up a year from now, just before the midterms? I think the Democrats will be hurting because their ideology is clearly pissing a lot of people off, scaring a lot of people. We saw this with Trump winning the popular vote, the Republicans sweeping everything. People are waking up. I'm seeing there's liberals that I know that have gotten red-pilled in the past 5 years, especially with how bad Joe Biden was. What does a desperate ideology do when they're looking at a midterm defeat? We know what they're willing to do. We know what they're capable of doing. I don't believe that they will simply just say, guys, it looks like we're going to lose. Let's do nothing. I think...
Are you talking false flags or something?
No, I'm saying fringe leftists are going to get violent. I'm saying we've already seen the far left get violent. I think we're going to see, with the ICE raids, Donald Trump sending in the National Guard, they're not going to accept that the people of this country have spoken. Mm-hmm. Trump won a popular vote. The people said, hey, deal with the immigration crisis. The left is saying no, and there have been 3 terror attacks on ICE already. I hate to say it because people are going to get mad at me for being blackpilled, but guys, Trump, it's not even, we won. We all voted. We said, listen, we don't like what Joe Biden was doing with this country. We don't like his policies. His economic policies were no good. His foreign policy was no good. His immigration policy was a nightmare. Trump, please reverse these things. He's begun to, and they are using terrorism and violence to try and stop and obstruct. They have used assassinations.
Well, can I say one thing about that? I didn't like when we would do this and we would say they.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit because I was like, well, it's not all of them. But then when you see Ilhan Omar, and you see Don Lemon, and you see AOC, and you see these people hemming and hawing and trying to like hedge, and Jimmy Kimmel lying about who committed the atrocity, then it becomes they.
Oh, yeah.
Then it becomes you all share this burden,
Yeah.
and you guys are all complicit. You are culpable, and like, you know, I want us to get unity. I remember we did the J.D. Vance hosted Charlie's show on the Monday after. And he took some flack from these same people because he said, listen, I want unity, but first we have to acknowledge the truth. And the truth is that there is one side of the aisle that's propagating this stuff, and you guys have to come to grips with that. And so, yeah, I'm into the they now.
Yeah.
It is a collective guilt that we have to deal with, and they have to reform and call themselves out.
Well, because it's like, I mean, there's people on the right that are like, well, it's not all of them. I'm like, if every single one of their mainstream pundits is endorsing this kind of rhetoric, can you point me to like the dissidents on their side? And they do, and it's like a random stream you've never heard of. It's like they're in lockstep. And then when you have Ilhan Omar saying there's no legacy to speak of, and she's speaking about Charlie Kirk. He's representing America. He's representing American values, Christian values. So she's saying an anti-American rhetoric. She's saying America has no legacy to speak of. Christians have no legacy to speak of. Those are fighting words, whether you like it or not. And that's why people on the right have to wake up of what we're up against. You need to believe them when they tell you these things.
Mm-hmm.
I had a liberal guy that I know hit me up and say, turns out he was a groiper. And I messaged...
Like how soon after?
What was this, like 4 or 5 days?
Okay, yeah.
This was around the time that the Jimmy Kimmel stuff was going down. And on my Facebook, they were drawing comics. They drew a comic meme that they were sharing and going viral, explaining what groipers were and how the assassin of Charlie Kirk was a groiper. And it was shocking lies. They made up this fake one where they're like, groipers sing Bella Ciao. Like, no, they don't. The groupers don't sing Belichick. They don't even know what that is. When I saw that, I was like, it's they. The fact that they'd be willing to go on Facebook and say outright, Charlie Kirk got assassination, yeah, but. And then whatever they wanted. Instead of just being like, guys, no way, we're not playing this game right now. I mean, you know what's crazy to me is that when George Floyd died, even Ben Shapiro came out and said, guys, this looks really bad and it was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. Conservatives have no problem being like, nobody wants anyone killed. Okay? This shouldn't have happened. And then the left comes out and celebrates and cheers. And it is here's the important thing, right? Right now, you have this Mormon church was attacked. And it's looking like the guy was a Trump supporting war vet. The motivation appears to be something related internal to the church, not politically motivated in a broad mainstream sense. So here's the point I'm going to make. I don't care if the liberals are like, look, he was a MAGA guy, he was a Trump supporter. I'm like, sure, what was his motivating ideology? When Ilhan Omar and AOC go on the House floor and speak an ideology verbatim to the alleged assassin, I'm like, that's what we are concerned about. That AOC's ideology, these violent murderers have the same worldview. Okay, so that means AOC should be saying to my followers and people who hear me, do not be violent. She won't do it. I have no problem saying to everybody on the right, the day Charlie died, I said, cooler heads must prevail. We cannot have retaliation or violence. This needs to be handled by law enforcement. This is what we do. They can't do it. And when I say they, again, AOC went on the House floor to smear and besmirch Charlie's good name. Not even 2 weeks. Not even, she couldn't give him a moment.
The moment of silence. The moment of silence moment was just...
When they started booing and yelling.
That was a mask-off moment.
That is, I think, going to go down as one of the most disgraceful moments in American history.
I want to play this clip from Bill Maher's show, which, boy, Bill, I just want to say this before we play it. Welcome to the Republican Party.
The basic problem we have in America is conservatives think the liberals are insane, and they're not completely wrong. Now, I don't think most liberals are insane, but neither do they make it clear they disapprove of the ones who are, and their cowardice in not marginalizing their own crazies has been their downfall. I couldn't get Neil deGrasse Tyson, a genius scientist and preeminent scientific voice in the media, to agree that it was ridiculous for Scientific American and The Atlantic to be claiming that separating sports by sex doesn't make sense. Yes, it does. Actually, it makes perfect sense. And it's obvious that it does.
Look at that.
And there's a lot of stuff like that on the left. And when conservatives see it, they say, I'm sorry, we're just not going to go along with reinventing society, often pointlessly, even if we have to cancel democracy to do it. That's what they're saying. They see gender as only a construct and sex is assigned at birth, and they say, we're not doing that. Transing kids by self-diagnosis with no age limit, no parental notification, and no acknowledgement of social contagion, not doing it. Asylum now covers any reason for anyone to come to America, not doing it. Homelessness is a lifestyle. Natural immunity doesn't count anymore. Whiteness is toxic. Penises in women's prisons. Welcoming the Intifada. We're not doing it. And so, folks, if we are ever going to get back to the old America, that's got to be the Democrats' part of the bargain. Stop coming up with radically new and often terrible ideas, and then in the next breath, insist there be no debate about any of it. That if you don't see it right away and go along, you're bad, stupid, and deplorable. As if you were saying, duh, 2 + 2 = 5, isn't that obvious? Yeah, it's obvious you can't add. You can't just say shit. Math is racist. Queers for Palestine. Looting is cool. Healthy at any weight. If the men's football team played the women's team, it would be a tie. You can't just say shit.
Oh, poor Bill.
I mean, you can, but it doesn't make it true because you're not Harry Potter. Smug self-righteousness in the defense of some of the dumbest ideas to ever come down the pike is not a formula that's really working for you. Because here's one thing I can promise every liberal in this country. The Democrats can win every election from now until forever. And the people who now hold the reins of power will not give a shit and will not give it back if they think you're still nutty.
So that was great. And I know that conservatives are probably still rolling their eyes at Bill, but oh, poor Bill Maher. He's a Republican now. Yeah, he may as well be a moderate Republican because everything he just said is why so many people have left the left.
It's true. But the thing is, like, totally agreed. Like, the Democrats have to hold up their end of the bargain if we want to restore old America, so to speak. But the problem is, like, do we really trust Democrats to like moderate their own side? Like, they failed at this over and over again. It just results in more and more violence. So it's like that's why the Trump admin has had to come in here and restore the conditions that would make it possible to return to old America. Because there's not really a partner for negotiation anymore. They keep shooting us.
The crazy thing to me is the normal political dichotomy for most of my younger life was you and me. I was left, you were right. We agreed on most things and they had light arguments on like the limits of tax policy.
Marginal tax rate.
Yeah, exactly. Are you kidding? We can't increase the tax by 0.5. I'm like, no, I think that now it's, okay, well, the tax thing aside, we'll figure that one out later. These people are trying to give children sex changes.
And tax wider neighborhoods more.
Yeah, exactly.
Open
the borders.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, just completely flood the borders with drugs and everything and just, say that we need to be compassionate on 10 million people that we don't know.
This is what I often said was remarkable about AmFest is that not only did you guys have me on stage, you got Luke, you have Ian of all people.
I fought that one, but yeah.
I won.
Yeah, you should have seen the debates backstage. No.
But
we had Jank.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, we took some backlash for that, but it was
you did the right thing.
Yeah, it was in the spirit of like, hey, you've emerged as one of the saner voices. We totally disagree on how to fix things. We will not agree on that stuff. But listen, we agree to do it to disagree agreeably.
This is, I think it was the right thing to do. And this is how you create a culture where you say, we are redefining, we are bringing it back to what the left and the right was supposed to be. Yeah. People who can plainly and easily say, I'm sorry for your loss. I can't believe a psychopath would do such a thing, and not celebrate it. And when you have AmFest saying, we will allow liberals to join us and have this debate, you are saying this is where life is happening. Yeah. You guys off in the fringes, we don't want to have anything to do with you. You're violent, you're dangerous, and create that opportunity. So I always say this, there's like a viral story right now with Emma Watson, from Harry Potter, saying she loves J.K. Rowling now. And J.K. Rowling came out and was like, oh, wow, now you say it. After she was getting death threats and she got kicked off of
what was this change? I haven't seen the story.
The only change that happened as to why Emma Watson now has no problem publicly saying she loves J.K. Rowling is that we are winning. The conversation around this trans ideology is getting pushback. Emma Watson is a fair weather activist. Now that it's unpopular to be in favor of giving children sex change, she's going, J.K. Rowling's so great, I love her. And J.K. Rowling's like, nah. You didn't, J.K. Rowling stood up for what she believed in and got hell for it. And these prominent personalities on the left will say whatever they're told to say by the murmuration of the cult. And my point in bringing this up, I say we have to give them, there needs to be a path to redemption, within limits, of course, for these liberals who said stupid and crazy things. If they want to come back into the fold, what I see with you guys and Cenk inviting him to come to AmFest was saying, if you are willing to admit your faults and do the right thing, forgiveness is always available, and you can have this conversation.
And by the way, if you create a scenario here, and listen, a lot of these people deserve their just desserts, right? They deserve some of the scorn that gets heaped on them. I will say though, but if you operate in good faith, this is kind of like a lot of people are going to disagree with me, but like Fetterman, he's saying things. He's not voting the way we want him to,
right?
But at least he's saying some things that sound halfway, reasonable. And I think that there has to be. He's doing that actually pretty bravely, I would say, because he's lost all of his staff. He's basically been completely outcast in the Senate, which is kind of against what most people do in the Senate. But you have to give an on-ramp to them to sort of be like, hey, we're not going to just make this so painful on you to say sane things.
Yeah.
Like it should require less and less courage to step out and say normal, sane things. And, that can be a negative feedback loop that we do because it's fun to dunk on people.
Yeah.
And, there's every rationalization and justification that they deserve it. But at some point, like, if we want this thing to get back together where people aren't getting murdered, like Charlie, for just engaging in debate, that we've got to find a way, and you've got to put some of this stuff to bed when they're willing to come back to a place of sanity.
Yeah, but it's like, even if we are able to just ratchet the Democrat Party back to like the 1980s, we're still going to get the same result at some point down. Like, we're just kind of kicking the can further down the road, because a lot of the stuff is baked into the ideology of leftism.
Yeah, I totally agree. We need to like win politically so dramatically and for so long that they realize that they have to go back into the into the
back to the drawing board.
Yeah,
well,
new ideology.
What I think will happen is younger people are looking for how to fit in and find success. So, I've been thinking a lot about recently having a kid, what I want for my kid, and
congratulations, by the way.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I know that most parents already know this, but your view of the world changes quite a bit. I've traveled the world. I've gone on adventures. I've seen so much. I am not concerned with any of those things right now. I'm concerned with how can I give that to my child and children. Young people, I was thinking to myself earlier as I was driving around, like, traveling. I'm almost 40. I used to love traveling. Now I much prefer to stay home with my family. And why is that? Why don't I feel, well, I care more about what my kid wants, but why did I want that when I was young? Young people are seeking to experience and absorb the world around them to survive, to grow, to develop. This is what humans do. Young people today, and I should say for the past 10 years, have been told by this liberal institutional apparatus, violent, vile cult, it makes you famous. You go on TV and say whatever they tell you to say, you'll get 1 million followers. Be a nasty, angry leftist activist, put the black square, fit in, that's success. We have to redefine that. We have to say, no, actually, you do those things, we don't work with you. Your opportunity is limited. Don't marginalize yourself. That is not the future for you and this world. And what you'll see then is the young people who are growing up and absorbing the world will say, that's failure.
It's a dead end.
It's a dead end.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
The path of light will make you successful. It'll make you happy. Yeah, I'll tell you this, man. I'm reading these stories of millennials getting close to their 40s with no family, no kids. They're listless. They're depressed. A lot of women. And that is terrifying. What happened to millennials where they're almost 40 and they're going, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I'm like, how do you not know? And I don't blame them as individuals for the world around them. They didn't learn. And what have we done as a society that created people that don't understand what to do with their lives? I think we have to make sure the next generation and the younger people today learn there is a path towards success. There is a means to doing it. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. And going down this weird leftist path of darkness will leave you with nothing but misery.
Well, yeah, I mean, because leftism created the ideal person for a leftist is just the best consumer. So it's like a 40-year-old with no kids. All they're going to do is just buy products all day to fill that void in their soul because they've stripped them of all their identity. They've stripped them of the potential to be a father or a mother. They've stripped them of being an American. They've stripped them of being a child of God. They've stripped them from all these different things. They've ripped away every label from them. So all that's left is just being a consumer and buying products, and that just trying to fill that soul void in their soul.
And I got to give it to Andrew Tate on this one because he had a really funny tweet where he said something like, the worst thing about being rich is that there's nothing left to buy, so you just drive around looking for steak. And it's funny. Because that's basically what, like, when we're like, what do you want to do for the weekend? It's like, let's find another restaurant and hang out and have drinks and good food. But it's not, I think for Andrew, he's sure. I wouldn't know about not being able to buy anything you want, like he's saying. But this point about driving around and just trying to find steak is true for all adults. And I think the real proposition is what he's revealing, and what I think a lot of these millennials are revealing when they say that they don't know what to do with their lives is they didn't have kids. And I would just say to everybody, have kids now. Don't wait. I'm turning 40 in a few months, and I just had my first kid, and I should have had a kid way long ago. In my own defense, I was very poor when I was in my 20s and didn't have a place to live. I was,
Yeah, but that's Tucker and Charlie had this great clip that would go viral every couple months. And it was Tucker, like, Charlie goes, hey, do you have any life advice for our students? You're about to see him. Ryan knows the clip I'm talking about. And Tucker goes, get married, have more children than you can afford. Take a job you're not qualified for. Live boldly. He's like, and he says, I've wasted more money in my life than I can remember. But he's like, it was fine. All the room service was worth it. It was fine. He says, but the real bitter pill for him to swallow is the time he wasted.
Yeah.
And so you said that, when you said you have kids now, it's like, yes, don't wait. Even me, me and my wife, we have 3 kids, I guess we're sort of on the timeline that, you would kind of expect or what. But even me, I'm like, man, I kind of wish I would have started a little earlier.
Yeah.
I will say, like, if I had, so I was sleeping on couches and partially homeless. There was no opportunity for me.
There is some threshold that we,
but I say this because I know there are people out there that are like, I wish I could. The argument is, if you are in the lower income category but stable, have kids.
Yeah, but exactly. So if you have this image in your head of like, well, I want to make sure I have like the at least a 3-bedroom house and be able to afford that, and I don't want to be renting. I want to have like bought it. No, just listen. Children are a blessing. It's a value statement that you have children. You get married because of the value systems you hold. You don't because people have told you it's a burden. People have told you that it is going to weigh you down, that it's going to totally demolish your plans.
Those are demons.
No, here's what's true. When you get married, like I believe this with all my heart, God will bring the provision. God will find a way to help you take care of your kids. And if you commit to your family, I believe that's true.
I'll add this. All of that's a lie. The idea of a burden. The studies are coming out saying, oh, actually, women with kids are much happier.
Oh, that Atlantic article.
Yeah. Yep. Oh heavens, who would have thought after millennia of human generation, they were like, oh, actually, women like having kids. They're lying the whole time. I can only say this because I know most people have had kids who are watching and younger than me. Not a burden. Not a burden.
Yeah.
It's not
by the way, in this time, I will just say, like, I've been away from my family a lot since it happened. And, you know, I was leaving yesterday and my kids just like lost it just when I was leaving. And when I come back to them, they tackle me and like, I love you. And they give me kisses and all this stuff. I'm like, that emotional connection is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
There is no steak you can eat. There is no car you can buy. There is no job you can work. There is nothing that even comes close to that. And by the way, it's a lot of work. I'm not trying to like sugarcoat. It comes with a lot of work, but that transforms you into a person that can have even more joy.
Yeah. Well,
It's if it weren't true, humans wouldn't exist. So, you know, I posit this to liberals all the time when they say things like, kids aren't for me, you know, I'm like, you will love it so much you have no idea, because if it wasn't the case, humans would have gone extinct a long time ago.
Yeah. Well, but it also, maybe speak to this, because I know it's true for me. Like, it changes you. Like, you become a better human. Only, by the way, this only counts if you don't just be like, you know, leave your baby mama and, you know, never.
Yeah, some
you know,
people are.
So that's not what we're talking about. If you commit yourself to it, it will make you a tremendously better person.
Well, because it's lifestyle behaviors that acknowledge the reality that you're an eternal being, like spiritually, but that the world's going to go on after you die. And a lot of people can't accept their own mortality. And that's what's so beautiful about children. That's what's so beautiful about investing and loving your country, investing and loving in your church and your community, because these things will outlast you. And so the other side is just,
it's nihilism.
It's nihilism. It's just buy a bunch of Funko Pops and like try to ignore that voice in the back of your head saying, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Invest in things that are lasting, that will last beyond you, that
And are difficult
in
to
some
do.
degree are eternal.
All right, guys, you guys. All right, I'm gonna have babies tonight. All right, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
It's your turn.
Watch out, Phoenix.
Come out. My
Maybe we
the
crawl
Uber,
before we walk.
What's the Airbnb we're staying at right now? Let's have as many as we can. But no, a lot of nurses always report talking to people when they're on their deathbed. And it's never that people regret working too hard. It's always that they never spent enough time with their family, with their loved ones. So, you know, the idea, it's been brewing in my head, and especially after everything that happened with Charlie, it's even brewing in my head even more that this is something that I want.
Good, man.
And
It's been a lot of that, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of stress.
Oh, yeah.
And there's also a lot of pressure.
Church, too.
And there's also a lot of people, you know, if you look at a lot of the pollings, you know, the data is highlighting how young men want to have families and kids, but young women don't, more and more.
They want a career.
That's the terrifying aspect.
They want the thing that
of all of this.
They want the thing that when you're in your deathbed, to your point, you don't even care about.
Yeah.
Why, like, how did that lie get implanted in their brains? But literally, to your point, if you have this fact that at your deathbed, everybody wants to be surrounded by their loved ones. They don't think about the job. They don't think about any of that. They think about the people closest to them. That's the thing that will matter most to you on your deathbed.
Yep.
You should live your life in reverse, thinking about that truth, right? And yet somehow young women have believed a lie that the thing they care about most is their career.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what my great-grandparents did for work. I just know I have a ton of cousins, and it's a beautiful thing.
There's a little bit of hypocrisy in me saying this, and I acknowledge that, but also go to church.
Yeah.
It was, you know, we had a Catholic priest on the Culture War talking about exorcisms, and he asked me, he asked me, I said, I grew up Catholic. He's like, oh, so you're baptized Catholic? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, so you still are, you haven't come back yet. And I was like, sure. I don't consider, I'm not a Christian. I'm not going to pretend to be. There are a lot of people that I think try to play that angle because it'll get them followers or whatever. I do believe in God, but I recognize the function of church and how important it was to our civilization, a weekly gathering place of people of shared moral values and tradition that allowed a society to anchor itself. And what's happened over the past generation, especially with my generation, they don't go to church. They don't have a place. And I think it's left a void in young people, millennials. And so they tried to fill it with some kind of purpose, and they found wokeness. An amorphous, nondescript, nebulous, non-theistic religion. They have jammed into the holes in their chest, and they have tried to find ways to feel like they matter. And they're doing bad things because of it. Simply described as, with the vacant hearts they have, they've stuffed them full of demons.
Yeah.
So what we've talked about quite a bit is I call it the Saturday morning cartoons we're trying to do with our cafe, where Saturday mornings, to not interfere with church, parents bring their kids, we'll do catered breakfast. The plan for this may be coming very, very soon. Very excited for this. So the work is getting done. Mamba Collectibles, go check it out. Half the building's already open. You can hang out in Martinsburg, West Virginia. But the idea is to start with a place where people can come and hang out, their kids can come together, and they can meet on shared moral values. Step one. Whether they advance beyond that to faith, religion, or church, whatever, is not something that I can, commit to or comment on. Is not somebody who does that, but I want to at least create that functional space where community will come together. It does already exist for those that go to church.
Yeah.
And demonic possession is real.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've seen it in real life. I don't want to speak about my experiences, but when we look at a lot of the ideas that a lot of these people are kind of centralizing around lust, pride, envy, when we look at all of those virtues, it's sold to us as social media clout. It's sold to us like we should try to achieve those things for some kind of fake artificial like or community. But in reality, when you kind of delve into a lot of those things, they're extremely empty and they kind of take away your soul. And I believe there are aspects of mainline kind of establishment society, very kind of powerful, individuals out there that do want to spread demonic possession, that do want to spread evil, and are doing it in record numbers now.
That's why we had a priest on to talk about exorcisms, because something's out there. But let's jump to the story. That's from the New York Post. Oh boy. We're going for it. Charlie Kirk wrote of his deep love for Israel in letter to Netanyahu about how to counter rising opposition to the Jewish state in the U.S. I think I have the oh, no, this is another post that we'll bring up in a second, which is terrifying. But to get to the letter, the New York Post says, oh, it's right here. Okay. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk advised Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on how to counter anti-Israel sentiment among Gen Z and win the information war being waged against the Jewish state, according to a letter obtained by the Post. Kirk wrote to Netanyahu in the May 2nd missive that he was alarmed by anti-Israel and anti-Semitic trends hitting record levels on social media, since one of his greatest joys as a Christian is advocating for Israel and forming alliances with Jews in the fight to protect Judeo-Christian civilization. My team and I have spent months analyzing these trends and debating ideas that could help you and your country push back against these disturbing developments, he said in the letter. Reproduced in full below for the first time, anti-Israel sentiment can undermine American support for Israel. What's interesting about this, I suppose, is there was a debate raging online that Charlie was turning against Israel, and it's part of this conspiracy theory, which is within hours, the conspiracy theorists were claiming Israel killed Charlie Kirk. I can say I don't understand what the goal of such a claim would be, but I think there are people who just plumb hate Israel no matter what. So any opportunity they have to say that. And the funny thing is, no matter how many times I say it, guys, I don't care if you like or don't like Israel. You're free to criticize them. Please do. They're a government in a country. You can criticize anybody. I still get called a shill for Israel and all of that stuff for simply pointing out, guys, we have evidence. We have a general idea of what happened. But I suppose I just, ask the man himself your view on all of this, because just you tell me, because I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
Is this letter verified? Is this letter true?
Yeah, I mean it's real. Yeah.
Why is there this idea? I'm going to put it like this. Nick Fuentes called it conspiratard-ish that people were claiming Israel killed Charlie. And it was really funny. He was like, if Ben Shapiro died, they're going to claim Israel did it. And they're claiming now that Nick Fuentes got the call. Like Israel called him and told him to yeah. It's crazy in my opinion, but I'm curious why you think people are pushing this and just what the truth is.
I think Charlie's views on Israel were nuanced. There's no doubt about it. He was frustrated. He was, I talked about this with Alex Clark's podcast, Culture Apothecary, and I don't know, it's like got millions of views or something like that. She told me. Yeah, I mean, listen, he for Charlie, it was very clear. He wanted people who controlled the Holy Land to be civilized people. He didn't want it to be in the hands of Islam, for example, right? Charlie looked at it as like, we have a civilized group that is friendly to the West, and we have uncivilized, basically. We have these Muslim nations that are very hostile. A lot of them are openly terrorists, right? Towards Israel, towards America. Who would you rather have control of the Holy Land? That was one really basic thing, right? The other thing was that he was really frustrated that he wasn't allowed to criticize Israel without being labeled an anti-Semite, right? So, like, the truth is that like he had vehement disagreements with the way that they were prosecuting the war. He had vehement disagreements about the way that they were messaging about different things. He wanted it to be over. He thought it was unfortunate that it was dragging on so long. And but he realized that he had more freedom to criticize America in many ways than he did criticize Israel.
Yeah. Well, even Tucker Carlson was bringing up the point of how Charlie Kirk was being labeled anti-Semitic himself and how he found that personally very offensive. Now, for me, I think Bibi's comments are kind of weird throughout all of this, and I don't think it helps the kind of discourse and what's going on here. Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk were talking about this issue also a couple weeks before it happened, and I thought their comments were also kind of very important and very nuanced. Because there was things that I agreed with Charlie on, some of the things I disagreed with, but he was able to have that conversation and that debate. He was hosting individuals like Dave Smith and other critics and being able to give them a voice. And there were people that were saying, you got to shut down Tucker Carlson. You got to shut down all these critics and all these people who present the other side, when he was just presenting a debate too.
Well, and he was very cognizant of the fact that, young people were much more Israeli skeptic. Right, we were hearing it all the time, and he did not. If Charlie would have gone out there and just said, "We're not allowed to have this conversation," that would have been a huge disservice to the conservative movement. Because ultimately, Charlie was one thing: America first. Yeah. He really was. He loved America. He cared about Israel. There's no doubt. And he had a long history of advocating on behalf of Israel, standing up against BDS movements and this and that. And so, imagine being Charlie Kirk, where you sent pro-Israel signage to your chapters. You did a Young Jewish Leadership Summit. One of your most important mentors in your life is a Jew, Dennis Prager. And you have this great history of being all of these things that Israel should have been very excited about. And yet you were still criticized the moment you didn't do one thing, because you have a deep friendship and mutual respect with Tucker Carlson. He was extraordinarily frustrated by that. And when he would get hit, one of my favorite parts about Charlie, and Tim, I know you would appreciate this, but they would say, well, you gotta cancel Tucker Carlson. He'd be like, well, then maybe he's gonna give 2 speeches at AmFest now. Yeah, honestly, you're gonna try and morally blackmail me? Yep. Screw you. I'm not playing this game, because guess what? You don't run Turning Point, I do. And I love that about him. It was one of my, and people also have to understand, Charlie was extraordinarily loyal to his friends. Even if he saw Tucker saying something that he didn't agree with, maybe privately to me and Blake or something, he'd be like, where's he going with this? But he would never say something publicly because Tucker is his friend. Yeah. They're actual friends. And you saw that with Candace even. Charlie and Candace, they had a long history together, long friendship. So it's just people expected him to just come out and be like, I disavow and all this. Well, that's just not the way Charlie worked.
Yeah, it was far more nuanced.
So much nuance.
There was also a lot of heat.
And by the way, the internet doesn't like nuance.
Exactly.
The internet is
they want black or white.
Black or white.
Tell me where you stand. Charlie had a more nuanced take on this, but then I was also hearing that there was a lot of heat, especially when Tucker Carlson was at the last SAS meeting, and he talked about how Epstein was Mossad, and then he brought up Bill Ackman, and he brought up all these other people behind the scenes, and then that brought up this type of situation where people were calling Charlie saying, cancel him, don't let him speak ever again. And a lot of people...
Charlie's dug his heels. Yeah. He's like, no thanks. We're gonna confirm him right now.
I'd imagine that, especially in dealing with someone like Charlie, the way that's described is probably a bit more exaggerated. I'm sure he got a call where people were like, I don't like that Tucker was saying these things. Charlie tried to persuade him.
Listen, yes, it is probably more exaggerated. Was the pressure campaign real? Yeah, but it was we have a long history of, there's a couple things that Charlie did at Turning Point that in retrospect were critically important to the fact that I think Turning Point's going to grow. Right, and we're going to be not just okay, but Erica's amazing, the leadership, the team is amazing, and one of those is that he never accepted foreign money, because there was this whole rumor of did you take money from Israel? So I was like, I didn't even have to call anybody to verify it. No, because I knew Charlie for years turning down foreign money, and people would there was instances where foreign people would try and wire, they would somehow get the wire info, and they would just send a wire in, and they would kind of force like us to take the money, and Charlie would have it all refunded back. So I just like, and we don't take money from foreign governments, nothing. Charlie is proudly American funded and American made and like America first. Like Charlie loved America. He loved this country. And so anyways, it's not even an issue.
But I want to ask you about this one other conspiracy that I'm seeing a lot more now as well. And it's that you and Erica aren't reacting properly.
Oh.
And
yes.
So I've given my thoughts on the matter, and I've pushed a little back. There are people saying, you know, I mean, they don't seem to be sad. What's going on?
You know what's weird about that? It's like I went from so it happens. We fly instantly to Provo. I'm so devastated that I can't like obviously do the show on Thursday. I didn't even consider it. Actually, Jack took the Charlie Kirk show on the Thursday after it happened. And then Steve Bannon flew out there.
Wow.
Because he just, I don't know what his impulse was. It was like, I just need to be close to you guys. Let me know how I can help. And so he does his show like close by, and he says, you know, like, I really think it's important you come on. And I was like, all right. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I remember I read the eulogy that we posted on Turning Point's website. And I basically, you know, was such a mess I couldn't get through reading the eulogy. Just like, and I remember feeling like, because I'm not, you know, I'm got this training in me, like you know, you're a man, you don't cry.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because like even been around Trump, it's like Trump doesn't like guys that cry. Like all these things are going through my head. Like I gotta like keep this together. I'm gonna be strong for Charlie. I know Charlie would want us to like soldier on and like keep the mission going. And I just like couldn't get through it. You know, I'm just like losing it. And I felt so like almost embarrassed by that. I mean, I knew that it was people were going to give me, you know, they were going to understand like what we were going through. But then we get back to Phoenix after we did the dignified transfer. J.D. Vance came, picked us up in Air Force 2 out of Provo, flew us from Salt Lake City, flew us down to Phoenix. And we did the show the next day, and we were all just like a mess the whole show. But it, you know, people loved that show because they were grieving and they wanted to grieve with us. But like the other thing I would just say is, so I go from feeling like I'm showing too much emotion on air to feeling like, you know, I haven't heard too much of that, to be fair. I maybe I'm just insulated. Maybe my algorithm's different, but yeah, just kind of, you know, people saying that stuff. I saw some people commenting that about Erica when she came on. It's like, what do you expect her to do? Just performative cry for you whenever you think that she should? Like, how dare you tell a grieving widow how she's supposed to grieve? And by the way, how dare you tell me how I'm supposed to grieve when one of my best friends in the whole world, my business partner, my partner in crime for 8 years, gets brutally assassinated in front of the whole world? Like, shame on you. Shut up.
Yeah, I think those are just like demonic evil attacks on you guys.
Yeah, but
I mean,
no, for real. But you know, and the other thing is, it's like Charlie would want us to march on. He would.
Yeah.
And that means that I gotta like put my, you know, pant legs on every morning, one leg at a time, put my shoes on, look myself in the mirror, and get ready for game time. Like I have to, because guess what? That's what Charlie would want me to do.
You know, the reason I bring this up is because we show up here to your guys' HQ. Everybody's working, and everybody is just doing their jobs. It's not like everybody's on the ground crying or nobody showed up. Yeah. I thought about what I would do if something happened to my family. And I'm like, well, there are people who work for my company, and there are people who watch my show that rely on the work that I do.
That's another very important point.
You can't just stop.
We have so many employees, you know, like one of them's right here, and he's a great guy. And I was thinking about them. You know, Charlie is irreplaceable, but we have a show that employs all these people. We've got editors and social media people. And yeah, you're like, okay, we got to make a plan here. And I will say the work, you can escape too much into the work where you're not processing. And I kind of felt that, like, you know, this weekend, candidly, you know, little bit of downtime, and it just hits you again. And I think I'm, you know, finally kind of going through some of the anger phase, if I'm being honest. I was you know, we had to pull off this memorial. You know, we had 6 days to plan this thing. It had more, you know, media interest than the Super Bowl. And why I know that is because the team at State Farm Stadium has hosted, I think, a few Super Bowls. So like, they have a world-class team, award-winning team. They were amazing to work with, and they couldn't believe what our team pulled off as quickly as they did. And they were great partners in it, by the way. And I just having the work is actually helpful because we know, and we have this tour that we have to do, and then there's all these other things that are emerging. And supporting Erica, supporting the team, and so it's like I don't take too much offense to that stuff because they've never walked in my shoes. I just think it's really gross.
Yeah, when I lost someone close to me when I was very young, all I wanted to do was work. I wanted to get my mind off of it. I wanted to focus, and I used that strength to build up, the media organization that I have now. But I just kind of, wanted to kind of ask you, kind of realizing and moving forward. I know some of the theories are just ridiculous and crazy and insane, but I do think there are some kind of, questions that are worth asking. I was wondering, how do you feel about the Fed's kind of investigation here, and do you have faith in them doing the Fed's investigation here, and do you have faith in them doing the right job here, or do you have some questions yourself?
Well, listen, I mean, a couple of things. I'm not next of kin. Right. So Erica's getting updates that I'm not aware of. I'm assured that the communication has been robust and that there is a high degree of confidence that this is what happened. Now, I'm also aware that when I weigh in on this issue, that could have implications negatively for the prosecution of the person that I'm told is the guilty party here, right? And so I have to be very careful. Do I have questions? Sure. My questions are mostly surrounding the fact that there seemed to be an indication that people knew something was going to happen, that there was a network of people that seemed to be like, something big's going to happen and you'll know it when you see it. And who is that? Who are those people? Who radicalized them? Were they financed? Those are like the questions I have. Whether there was a trap door is not the question I have. Okay. Whether his security guards were somehow involved is not the questions I have. By the way, because those are my brothers too. And I've been through the ringer with them. And they have defended my life. They have defended Charlie's life multiple times. I've seen people rushing him and they'd block him off. And the other thing is like just knowing the way that campus security works actually is that the private security has proximity around, they have jurisdiction around the immediate proximity of Charlie. Right? So when you go onto a campus PD, just imagine you had Rashida Tlaib pro-Palestine group meeting, right? Are you going to let them have control of the whole campus? Like, I don't know. There might be some instances where this arrangement makes a lot of sense, right? So you've got campus PD that has jurisdiction of the wider perimeter, and you've got Charlie's security that is in charge of his immediate vicinity. So somebody attacks him, somebody runs up to him. So you have to understand the way that the jurisdictions work on these campuses, first of all. And by the way, it's just when you know these guys, I just feel so bad for them because they have been attacked, doxxed, and all these things, and they're just such great guys. They really are. They would have taken the bullet for Charlie if they could have.
That one really, there's a lot of them. They're silly because there's too many. There's like 5 shooter theories. One of the first videos I saw is the security guards doing hand signs or whatever. And the reason this one got to me right away is because I have a security team too. And you do hand signs. Like it's loud, it's noisy, and they'll be like, they'll do a hand sign. I'm like, why are you guys attacking the people they're trying to protect them at that time?
Yeah, there's a lot of ridiculous theories out there, and I think the ridiculous theories are there to specifically make everyone kind of look at.
But here's what I will say. I'm sympathetic on some level, and that's because we've all been lied to so much. Yeah. And so when I tell you in the audience, I want the truth more than you want the truth, I really mean it. And if you think that there aren't it's like incredible amounts of effort and energy being expended, you're wrong. And just because we're not saying it all the time doesn't mean that we don't care.
This is the challenge, is that the show must go on, the work must continue. We're not going to spend every single day on this one issue, but it's going to be there. The investigation's happening, and there's a mission. But we're going to go to your chats. So smash the like button, share the show with literally everyone you know. Tell them how great the show is. And we are not going to have the uncensored call-ins this week, but one idea, I don't know if it was Tate's idea or not, was to have the DC crew run the call-ins back home.
That could work. Wasn't my idea, but I'll take
that was
credit.
Brandon's idea. Brandon's over there raising his hand.
Genius.
Because just logistics make it very difficult, but maybe the home crew would want to do it. I don't know. It'd be brutal. Like, hey guys, show up late at night for a half an hour. But let's grab a chance. There's a couple that I think we have to grab. We have Michael Thompson who says, "What's up with Brylan?"
Oh,
I went right for that one.
Yeah, I was just coming in hot over here, man. That was like funny to me. Like over the weekend, I've never actually met Brylan.
We've had him on.
Yeah, I had and now I'm connected with him over text or whatever, and he just reached out to say, hey, I really looked up to Charlie, and you guys are like doing a great job or whatever. I mean, it's just really nice stuff. I mean, to clear the air, if it needs to be cleared, like, no, he is not doing a Turning Point tour. He is not some we're not grooming him to be the next Charlie Kirk. There's no passing of the baton.
He didn't come from a laboratory?
Yeah, we didn't. Yeah. He's just a kid that, I think he's 19 or something. Is he 19?
I don't know.
18. He's young. He's really young. And he took it upon himself, maybe, I don't know, some donor maybe was like, hey, you should do this. And he, wants to speak on colleges. On the one hand, I'm not going to begrudge him the initiative that he's shown to do this. Good for him. But I mean, I do think it's important to keep lines clear because apparently it caused a bunch of confusion. No, he's not. This is not Turning Point's thing, nor was it some plan? No. But here's what happened, and this is why it got confusing, is he, you need an organization to get you a space on campus, right? This is the way it works. You have an official campus recognized, school recognized organization. They can then get a room, they can reserve it. There's a security element that's involved with that. So you need a group, and at some of these campuses, he, contacted the local Turning Point chapter, and they they got him a room. So it's literally that simple. It's not a I don't know where the confusion came in, but I just felt bad for him because everybody's dunking on him.
Yeah.
Dude, the optics, yes, terrible. Private plane, master shirt. I mean, it just looked hateable. I totally get it.
This is what I wanted to say to him. I feel so bad that people are ragging on him. I mean, he's just an excited young man who's trying to get involved, but I would recommend that he get some marketing. I mean this with respect, he should lift.
Lift, yeah, exactly.
For real, I'm not trying to be a dick. I think if he gets the private plane,
that wasn't a good look.
It's not a good look.
It's not a good. And it's funny because I quote. He said something like, "Hey, I need to introduce myself to you guys," and I just felt so bad because I think that private plane selfie did 40 million impressions. I mean, I felt bad for him, because on the one hand, some people were saying he insinuated that he was doing this with Turning Point or something. I think what he was trying to do was just sort of trying to give Turning Point some credit because these local chapters and some instances, not all, helped him get the space or whatever. So I like to think that's what it was. But listen, we're not involved with him, but I wish him well. And there's certainly no animosity from my perspective. But yeah, it's important to keep the lines clean. So there you go.
Yeah. All right, we got Jesse Hughes says Mega Chad Patriot Tate Brown.
Oh, more of those, please.
All right. Millennial Mama said, to see my friends and family celebrate or even just make excuses for a death that I'm mourning, that was also a shock to my system. It's a new low when I thought they'd already hit rock bottom. That's what's really crazy about it. It's just, I know people, some of these comments on my Facebook, they never even heard of Charlie. They didn't know who he was.
They were just told to hate him.
Exactly. And then I said to them, hey, let's have a conversation about this. They're like, nah. The cult said do it, so they did. And that is terrifying. I've been reading a lot about Bleeding Kansas and the French Revolution and the Spanish Revolution, and Lord help us. No, I'm not kidding.
We got to pray against it, man.
The Bleeding, I recommend people read about Bleeding Kansas, how insane it was. Pro-slavery forces, anti-slavery forces, they'd go to a random house that they knew was a opposing faction, drag them out of their house and just kill them on the spot on their knees. Because they were just told, I hate you. That's how deep and I know the left is going to be yeah, but slavery is wrong. I'm talking about the pro-slavery people dragging the anti-slavery people out of their houses. These are people who are literally just had a political opinion and farmed. That's how crazy it got in Kansas. And it wasn't just Kansas. That's what we called it. And this, of course, eventually became the Civil War. Terrifying. Joe Spinella says the Republican Party will win big as we progress forward. The Democrat Party will fade. The Republican Party will split, forming a new party, giving us another 2 parties as future generations come. I've been thinking that the Democratic Party is the oldest political party in the world. I think it's probably close to its political deathbed.
Yeah, it's always just in America, the parties replace each other. Like, just the way that our government's structured, it's pretty much impossible for third parties to exist. So it's more likely, the Democrat Party balkanizes and then they just get absorbed by, like, a socialist party or something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Democrat Party, for all intents and purposes, is the DSA now, right? Democratic Socialist Party of America.
Activists. So.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that and people get, like, frustrated about this, and we should be more like Europe. And I'm like, well, listen, here's the thing. In America, we form our coalitions before the election. In Europe, they do it after. Yep. Okay, so you get the virtue signal of voting for this ideologically pure candidate that represents you much more closely, maybe. But then guess what? They're still going to go find common cause and build a coalition with somebody you don't. And so, at any point, you're going in order to form a governing majority, you're going to have to form coalitions.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we have primaries. The UK, they just install their leaders, and you have to plug your nose. Like, no, I'll take the primaries. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
Ryan Hodge says, I'll bet $50 that our newborn daughter, Cara, screams louder than Phil Labonte. Change my mind. I won't try. I'm going to assume you're correct.
He's not that loud.
Carol W. says, I have lost a brother, a sister, and both parents. If you believe in life after death as I do, then you believe they are with you in your heart and in heaven. Celebrate their lives. Right on. How do you say this? I'll just call you Pick. He says, Catholic Latin Mass chanting and long moments of contemplative silence is beautiful and holy. Indeed. Now, I'll tell you this story. I met up with Seamus Coughlin. He goes to Latin Mass, and I was meeting up with him after he was getting out. I think we were going to get food or whatever. And I saw the people come out of that church in their Sunday's best, and I saw the children running around and playing in their Sunday's best. And I said,
"That's Poland."
I said, "Tell me what about this is bad in any way, and why what we have in the inner cities in like Chicago, New York, or LA is better than this."
It's such a good framing of that. It's like, oh, Christian nationalism, whatever that boogeyman that they're yelling. It's like, how can you just not like objectively look at that and be this is better than that. Maybe I don't agree, but at least I could see the upside. Like I don't hate it.
Yeah, everybody was very nice. It was orderly, organized, polite, compassionate. The kids were well behaved, but having fun. I remember what it was like when I grew up. People were shooting each other. Not good.
Yeah, going to Poland recently was a big wake-up call to how lucky my people have it back there.
Yeah, Luke was saying he's gonna go back there forever
if there's not a war.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, Kaliningrad's right there, brother. You don't want to be there.
Yeah.
You and Jack Basoba.
Stephen Griffin says, "Hey y'all, my daughter is a year old. I never thought I'd get this far, and I'm simultaneously terrified but excited for the future for obvious reasons. Shout out." Duke says, "You're saying have kids. Women that desire children is a prerequisite. 85% of women in their 20s are convinced not to be interested in the notion of children until they're 30 to 35. You don't need to convince men."
It's a good
Go
point.
to church.
Yeah, go to fish where the fish are.
Exactly.
You can also
Well, just real quick, all these red pill dating bros are like, nah, man, listen, these women, they're promiscuous, they're bad. What are men supposed to do? And I'm like, stop fishing in whore holes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like, bro, you're in Miami.
I mean, but it is like a valid.
Come on, stop it! Like, why are you gonna do me like that?
Reveal the private conversation.
They're pretty awesome.
you can go to Nebraska, go to rural Nebraska.
I mean, there is like a looming problem. And actually, Libby Emmons from the Post Millennial had a really good article in the New York Post where she's basically looking, and you could see glimpses of this when Erica spoke. I talked about it on the show today, but the topics she brought up in her speech deserve a little bit of reflection. What did she talk about? She talked about marriage. She talked about men and women. She had an admonition and an encouragement for both. She said, you guys are not each other's rivals, right? Mm-hmm. And she looked to women and she said, virtue is your power, is your calling. This is like you're calling the women to be more virtuous. These are important things for women to hear. And Libby saying, hey, I hope that if Charlie was part of bringing young men back to a place of traditional values and sanity and loving marriage and all that stuff, maybe Erica Kirk can sort of round
Yes.
out and finish the job. And I pray that is true. And I think she's the perfect person for it, by the way.
Absolutely.
There was that was the article in the New York Post that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
Libby wrote it.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. No, she crushed it.
saw
It's an
it.
amazing article. And I would say, so to this guy's point, he's not all wrong. It was not always this way, but I'm confident right now there is more men in the dating pool that want the good things, the virtuous things, than there are women. But women should be traditionally, historically, more geared that way. So you got to have faith that like this thing is going to come full circle. But yeah, if you're one of these good men, fish where the fish are. That's the bottom line.
I am convinced I know who the most prominent celebrity is among women, and it's my baby. Because anywhere I go, any woman walking by treats my baby like a celebrity.
Yeah.
It is amazing, and it is so what's the right word?
It's just because you didn't have a dog with you.
Heartwarming. But we're at a restaurant, my wife and I, and baby's in the crib just looking around. Every woman who walks by stops and goes, oh, like all
I know.
excited.
It's like genetic. It's hardwired.
Bro, women love babies. Men obviously love babies too, but that's why it's crazy to me that society has been telling women not to have babies.
It's wild. It's one of the greatest lies that's ever been perpetrated.
Seriously.
Birth control
And
is
also-
one of the most dangerous things for society, and it also demasculates men as
Totally
well
agree. I
without their
totally
consent
agree.
in the water supply. It should be banned immediately.
And also the new strat a lot of my friends are deploying is that they understand that women do biologically want children. So they just become really awesome and invest in themselves and just become like really great men. And then women just want to have kids
strategy.
with them.
It's a good
Like it's a
strategy.
unique strat,
Well,
but it works.
But
like,
by the way, I do believe this, and you can hate me if you want, but women will follow men that are worth following.
Yep.
A lot of women will. Maybe not all of them.
My theory is that as Gen Z men move to the right, Gen Z women will follow, and it's for some cold, hard science reasons that are probably offensive to feminists. But let me put it like this: guys don't have a clock. They don't. You know, the saying is that as a guy gets older, the soldiers down there start dying off, but a couple million, you'll need one. And the issue for women is that they do have a time limit. 35 years old is called geriatric pregnancy.
Yep.
Medically, that's a medical term. So what's going to happen is, my prediction, a lot of these women hold these political views because they're socially told to. They want to fit in. Not all of them. Some are strong-willed. Obviously, they exist. But there's going to be some women that go on a date with a guy, and they're going to sit down, and he's going to say, "Oh, I'm a huge conservative, and I do this," and she's going to say, "Well, you know, I'm Black Lives Matter, and I'm woke," and he's going to say, "Okay." He's like, "Well, it was really nice meeting you, but I think it's probably better that I leave." And she's going to go, "Well, wait, no, why?" And he's going to say, "Listen, I got all the time in the world. I don't think it's appropriate, and I think we wouldn't work together." Women, again, feminists are going to be mad I'm saying this, but women are going to feel the pressure men do not feel. Men will say, "I'm going to take my time and find something that's right for me." As these younger women age, they're going to say, "I can't afford that."
No, I would tell you one piece of data shows that the women are coming up, and I have not seen enough people talk about this. It was the Yale Youth Survey or Yale Youth Poll. It was the first poll I've seen where with women are R plus anything. So you saw what it was interesting. You saw young men, the youngest voters, the youngest voting cohort, and that would be college voters. Young men 18 to 21 were like R plus 19.
Wow.
Yeah. Young women in that same cohort R plus 4.
Wow.
So the youngest. So yeah, if you included 18 to 29, that would be a D plus.
Yeah.
But if you just narrow down on the youngest voters, the 18 to 21, it's R
But
plus 4.
You know what I think that is liberals don't have kids. So I bring this up quite a bit, but I tracked the data several years ago. In the 2000s, conservatives were having 2 kids and liberals were having 1.5. So the consequences were obvious. In 20 years, things would start skewing to the right. So
They might accelerate.
it absolutely is going to accelerate. But here's the scary thing. That R plus, Gen Alpha is still only around 42 million. Half the size of Gen Z, half the size of millennials. So we're seeing a shift towards the right because the right did have kids. Conservatives and Christians had kids. But the population size is very small. Let's grab this from Bone Shanks. He says, Charlie met everything head on, regardless of what was in his way. We have to keep this in mind, and it's what I have as the caption for my alarms to wake up every day. Quote, "You're not allowed to quit." Hear, hear. That's how I feel. And I think, you know, when people make comments about how you're supposed to feel or grieve in the wake of all this stuff, I came into this building with the crew. We're getting ready to go. They were working here. They never stopped working here. Each and every person here who knew and loved Charlie is working and doing their jobs. No one's no one stopped. No one's giving up. No one's breaking down. But of course, everybody is sad and scared. But the job must go on. The mission must not stop.
By the way, Charlie wouldn't. He would be. You know how you disgrace his legacy? Is you just fall into a heap on the floor.
Yeah.
And you say, I can't go on. That's how you disgrace his legacy. Because that's not. Like, we did the show on the Friday after. And it was the hardest. I think, from a career standpoint, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was so important that we did that. And I'm so glad that we did.
Shout out to Alex Brusowitz, because he went and did a Fox hit right after, and I was watching with my wife, and he was trying his best to hold together, but you could tell. I mean, he's fighting crying on live television. Yeah. It's just so many people were. I'll add this: so many people who didn't even know him were so insanely effective. I can't even begin to tell you. I got people, prominent person, as I've mentioned, I don't want to call anybody out, who are texting me about how hurt and how devastated they were by this, and they didn't even know the guy. So for all those people who stood up and did the job, and to be a man who's on the verge of crying on national television, I respect that. You are not going to stop doing your job despite the emotional toll it's taking on you. I've made the joke, men are only allowed to cry when their dog dies. No one else. No one else. I'm kidding, of course. I think it's what they say, courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing what you have to do in spite of your fear. And what it means to be a man is feeling that pain, but standing up and doing the job because someone has to do it.
Yeah. I had to do a hit to sort of, on the I was the Friday night when Erica gave her first address. And I did it with Laura Ingram, like out on the street, and I was on the verge of tears the whole time, and I still kind of look back and go like, why the hell did I do that? But it was because, again, I had this mantra in my head, like Charlie would want that. Like, he would demand, like, if he gave his life for this, the least I could do is be a part of channeling this energy that was just unleashed on the country and help push it to the good. That's like, I mean, you just have to be a part of the solution at that point. Like, because Charlie gave the last full measure. This is what he believed in, and we're gonna just we have to. There's no option not to.
It was hard when I first walked in the building, because this set is the set that we had initially used when we were here a couple years ago with Kyle Rittenhouse, and then I saw the screen, I saw the wall, it all came back to my mind, and then instantly in my brain, Charlie's not here, and it was like getting punched in the face. Mm-hmm. I was like, oof, man. Yeah. The show must go on. Let's try and grab some more here before I lose it. Sir Lauren Keeley says, it's my understanding that he was not a Trump supporter, in reference to the church attacker. Also, he was not a Latter-day Saint. He was anti-LDS. His social media posts and the conversation with a man a week before confirmed this. Am I wrong? There's a photo going around of him wearing a Trump shirt, and it says something like, make liberals cry or whatever. And initially, people were claiming that it was photoshopped and it added the Trump to it. But it's my understanding, you can go to the original Facebook post from 6 years ago and see the original post. The guy is wearing a Trump shirt. I don't know if that means he was a Trump supporter now, to be fair. But the general idea is he's not a leftist. Mm-hmm. He may be anti-Mormon or whatever. That's the important thing is the Axios data shows that right now you've got, was it 80-90% of attacks are considered left-wing. My question was like, where'd all the right-wing attacks go? It's kind of weird, Trump gets in, dismantles USAID, and then the right-wing attacks are all gone. That's just kind of weird. If you were to ask me, I don't know. Who am I? Let's see if I can grab one more here. All right, we'll grab two. Lynn Baker says, ICE to every major city. Let's go. All right. Michelle says, Oregon, KPTV News. First news spot, riders fight with police and chase them off using pepper spray. Very next spot. Everything in Portland is fine. Nothing going on. Bring in the troops, Mr. President. Yep. They want to have their cake and eat it too. They you know what I love about this? The Tylenol story, I think, my conspiracy theory is that RFK Jr. and Trump staged the Tylenol thing. Because the Harvard study, Johns Hopkins, Harvard, Mount Sinai, said Tylenol is linked to autism in 2019. Tylenol posted on Twitter in 2017, pregnant women shouldn't take it. I'm sitting there thinking, like, I bet RFK Jr. was like, let's just take an old study, claim it's new, and then watch him gargle Tylenol. And Trump was like, that'll be hilarious. But it proves the point that we knew this for 6 years about Tylenol, mainstream peer-reviewed science, and now all the mainstream media is saying Trump's wrong about it. That's just laughably insane. But my friends, that is going to do it for tonight. We're back, of course, tomorrow. Segments in the morning. Of course, we'll be back 8 p.m. So smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Andrew, did you want to shout anything out?
Just this Charlie Kirk show. Honestly, we're going to keep the show going. And Erica is super involved. It's people don't realize this, but, that was Charlie's baby. That was, he had a living through the Charlie Kirk show. And he was able to donate all of his salary back to Turning Point USA and Turning Point Action and then some. And so, part of his legacy is keeping the Charlie Kirk show going. And we've got great plans for it. And yeah, you can see us there every day, 12 to 2.
Right on.
Yeah, this was an important show. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for coming on. If you want to support me, you could get the shirt that I'm wearing that says Trust God, Not Government. I just posted it on my Twitter account, at Luke We Are Change, if you want to support everything that I'm doing. Autistically splurging out on my YouTube channel. So there's that too. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We don't say that word anymore. We say Tylenol Americans.
Yes, true. I'm overdosing on Tylenol on youtube.com/We Are Change.
I'm also a Tylenol user, Tylenol American. You can follow me at Real Tate Brown on X and Instagram. Never surrender. Thank you guys.
It's so weird when there's no one to say the left lane is for crime, but I guess we'll have to deal with that for the rest of the week.
True.
Thanks
and the
for
Fed.
Was that?
And the Fed.
Oh, there you go. That one works. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all tomorrow.